Daniel'in verdiği bilgiler ışığında bir anlık hayal etmenizi rica ediyorum. Maltepe'den Bağcılar'a en mutlu yol ne olabilir ve ne kadar sürer? Ben işin içinden çıkamadım açıkçası. Hepimizin gençlik yıllarımızda, iş hayatında bazı idolleri vardır. Şimdi sahneye gelecek olan kişi de eski bir Peppers and Rogers grubu olarak benim gençlik idolümdü. Sektörümüze katkılarını burada kısaca anlatmama imkan yok. Ama kendisi pazarlamanın kutsal kitaplarına imza atmış, müşteri deneyimi alanında dünyanın ilk 25 lideri arasında gösterilen Peppers and Rogers grubu ve CX Speakers'ın kurucu ortağı, yazar, konuşmacı, eğitimci sevgili Don Peppers'ı sahneye davet ediyorum.
Wow, thank you very much. I hope she introduced me. I wasn't listening in English, but she introduced me, right? Thank you very much. That was great. I am honored to be back here in Istanbul, one of my favorite cities. My family and I vacationed here a few years ago. We love the city. It's a beautiful, beautiful city. As the last speaker mentioned, I think it's got a lot of social fabric also. What I'm going to talk about today is how important putting a human connection is into your customer experience, all right? It's fundamentally what I'm going to talk about. But first, let's start with the kind of society we live in today, what technology is doing with us. Disruption is the new normal. Disruption, that's normal today. We all expect disruption. In 1997, normal was don't get involved with people on the internet. Normal was don't ever get into a stranger's car. 2017, normal is go ahead and summon strangers on the internet and get into their cars. Everybody does that. And what's causing this disruption is Moore's Law. Every 20 years, computers get 1,000 times more powerful. In 1995, it cost about $15 million to do a software startup in Silicon Valley. Today, you can do it for about $100,000 with cloud technology. Believe it or not, there is a mind-reading helmet that you can buy online right now at Neuropsych for about $400. You can get this helmet. It attaches to your scalp. It has a Wi-Fi connection. You can turn your lights on and off with your brain, with your thoughts. Okay? Believe it or not, scientists in Cambridge are working on something they call an appetite app. It's a little tiny microchip that will be injected into your abdomen with a hypodermic needle. It has a Bluetooth connection. They will lodge it next to your vagus nerve. The vagus nerve controls your appetite. Know where I'm going with this? So if you think you're gaining a little weight, you want to turn your appetite off, you go to your smartphone, turn your appetite off for a couple of days. I kid you not. Kid you not. In 1969, Boris Spassky was world chess champion. Then he was beat in 1972 by Bobby Fischer, probably the most brilliant chess player ever. And Bobby Fischer was so brilliant, he kind of dropped out of society. Anatoly Karpov became a world chess champion in 1975. 1985, Garry Kasparov became world chess champion. And in 1997, IBM, Big Blue, Deep Blue, defeated Kasparov in a world championship match. So a computer became the official world champion. You know who the world champion is in chess today? It's not Deep Blue anymore. It is augmented intelligence. This is a picture of Anson Williams. He's captain of the Ibermax human computer team, which is the official world champion. In a discipline they call advanced chess, they put a team of 2 or 3 humans with computers. And the computers and humans work together to come up with the best chess moves. And a human-computer team can beat any existing computer out there, and any other human as well. They also call it Centaur chess. Centaur chess, it's human machine. I'm going to come back to this concept in a little while. But fundamentally, disruptive technologies have changed the dimension of business competition. You think about it, there's two things that you have to do to be able to compete. You have to be able to satisfy some need, and you have to have a customer who wants to have that need satisfied. So if I put those two things on a two-dimensional chart, you know, with the needs satisfied at the vertical and customers reached across the horizontal, traditional business competition has always been in the horizontal direction. Okay? I have a particular product that satisfies a certain need, and I want to find as many customers as I can who want to have that need met. And I'm managing each product's profitability. How many products do I sell? What do I produce them at? And so forth. That's my definition of success. But because of technology today, we can approach competition in the other direction. We can focus on one customer at a time and try to satisfy as many of that customer's needs as possible across all our different products and services and through time, not just this month, but next month, the quarter after that, and not just this particular customer, but his friends and family members, his coworkers, his associated companies, and so forth. And the height of that bar is my share of customer. The problem we deal with in customer-centric competition is managing each customer's individual experience. Managing the customer experience is something that every company on the planet today is concerned more and more with. How do we manage our customers' experiences? And you know what? Like electricity and water, customers always seek the path of least resistance. And you know what? Friction is what reduces loyalty and increases cost. Friction. The data does not support the idea that loyalty is correlated with satisfaction. It's not. It's disloyalty that is correlated with dissatisfaction. Okay? The world is full of customers who are very satisfied at one company, left, and were very satisfied at the next company. That's the normal world. Because customer satisfaction is generally good. Products are generally high quality. But when you get dissatisfied someplace, then it's almost inevitable that you will leave, if you think you can be satisfied someplace else. So, what is the job of a company delivering customer experience? The secret to customer loyalty is a frictionless experience that removes obstacles. Let me tell you a story. A friend of mine is a management consultant specializing in selling into the retail trade. He sells to retail stores. He sells his services to retail stores and to companies that sell into retail stores. So he was shopping for new running shoes one holiday season. It was very crowded in the mall in America that he went into. And he went into an athletic shoe store, and every salesperson had 2 or 3 people in front of him. So he got in line and he listened to the salesman talk to the first woman in line, and she was interested in some Reebok cross-trainer shoes. And the salesman made her a pitch for an off-brand, a brand called New American that he'd never heard of before. The salesman said, yes ma'am, Reebok makes a great cross-trainer, but New American makes a good cross-trainer too, and they're about half the price of Reebok. You might want to try them on. So she did. She tried them on. And she bought them. And she walked out. Next guy in line was a tall gentleman looking at some Nike basketball shoes. And my friend said the salesman made him the same pitch. Yes, sir. Nike makes terrific basketball shoes, but you know what? New American, if you haven't heard of them yet, they're about half the price, and a lot of my clients like New American. He brought the New Americans out, so the guy bought the New Americans. So by this time, my friend, who's in the business of selling into retail stores, is fascinated because New American, this brand he had never heard of, obviously had some secret that they were using to get the salesman to push their shoes. So when it was his turn, he said, you know, I couldn't help but notice that you just sold 2 people in front of me on half price. They were willing to pay twice what you, and what's New American's secret? What are they doing for you? Is it like, it's a commission, right? And he said, no, it's not a commission. It's a contest? It's a contest. Like, you're going to win the contest? No, it's not that. He says, I just want to know. I'm not going to tell, you know, He says, don't tell my boss. Don't tell my boss. So look how crowded the store is today. Look, everybody has 2 or 3. I don't have time to go to the bathroom on a Saturday afternoon during holiday season. New American, when they ship their shoes to this store, their laces are already in them. Now, all he's doing is removing obstacles. The question I have for you is, in your store, with your business, do you ship your shoes with the laces in them? Or do you make your customers do a lot of the work themselves? If you're a retail bank, do you use the data that you already have to complete the customer's loan application? You already have their name and address and their account balances. Why don't you fill that stuff in? If you're an airline, you should automate the rebooking process after a flight cancellation or delay. You shouldn't make the customer call in, only if the customer doesn't agree with the rebooking you made. If you're a mobile phone company, you ought to routinely automate the choice of monthly plan so the customer doesn't have to always check to see if you've got the lowest cost plan for their calling platform. Those are ways to take the friction out of the experience. There are 4 qualities in a truly frictionless customer experience. Frictionless experience is reliable, valuable, relevant, it's trustable. Reliability. Reliable means the product or service works as advertised. You don't have to be the highest quality product, but you need to be on a par with your competitive set. Privacy is protected, and you respond to inquiries in real time, very quickly, not a lot of delay. Value. That means that the value proposition is obvious. There's good service delivered at a reasonable price. There's no hidden costs. It makes sense both for the customer and for the company. In terms of relevance, you're a relevant experience if the customer doesn't have to tell you again what he already told you. Different customers are treated differently based on what they need, not just what their value is. And addressable interactive channels generate increased customer insight. But probably the most important quality these days is what I call trustability. Trustability means proactive trustworthiness. You're trustable if you proactively watch out for each customer's interest, even when it costs money to do so. You're trustable when you apologize for mistakes and never have one story for the customer but another for the company. Never, ever. You're not trustable when that happens. And of course, earning a customer's trust has always been important. Traditionally, if you look at all the research, analysts say customer will trust a company if they think the company has good intentions, that they're looking out for the customer, and if they think the company is competent to carry out those intentions, okay? You could think of competence as doing things right, good intentions as doing the right thing. So trust has always been important, but guess what? Moore's Law has a corollary. I call the corollary to Moore's Law Zuckerberg's Law. Every 20 years, we interact 1,000 times more with others. You think about your life in 2017 compared to 1997. In 1997, there was no YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, okay? People didn't send text messages very much into that. And in 1997, I bet you didn't have anything but dial-up internet in your home, if you had that, okay? You didn't have a T1 line, didn't have Wi-Fi. Okay, today the average American teenager sends 300 text messages a day. How many did you send when you were a teenager? 0, right? And the thing is, the more we interact, the more trust we demand, because trust makes interactions efficient. I don't have time. I'm interacting too much. I do not have time for interactions with people or companies that I can't trust. When you come into work and you have your inbox open, what's the first thing you do with all those inbound messages? You sort them by the trust level. Anybody who's sending you a message to try to sell you something, it's delete, 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 delete. Unless you trust somebody, unless you say, oh, I want to hear from them. Okay? And the world is more transparent because of all the interaction that takes place today. Anything that you do online today can be outed. If you act in an untrustable fashion or anything else it will be visible online. As one American pundit said, dude, you can't take something bad off the internet. That's like trying to take pee out of a swimming pool. Once it goes online, it's online. But with these 4 qualities of the checklist, you can, in fact, automate most of the friction out of the customer experience. Let me just give you a few examples. Amazon's got a very frictionless experience. I buy a book on the Amazon. I go to Amazon. I click on the book, and it comes to my house, easy peasy. Microsoft, when they sell SQL servers, it used to be that the training vouchers that people got were sometimes put in the drawer and forgot about. Microsoft now automated, in an automated fashion, if you don't redeem a training voucher, okay, you bought a new SQL server and you're a business and you didn't redeem the training vouchers, then Microsoft will remind you, hey, we sent you the training vouchers, don't forget to redeem them, okay? They increase the value of the server. Vodafone Turkey will remind you about what's the appropriate monthly calling plan for your pattern of data usage and voice calls. And JetBlue Airways will automatically credit you with a refund if it's due. They don't make you go to the website and put in your ticket number or your confirmation number and claim a refund. Okay? When you do a refund, they credit your account. These are all done in an automated fashion. Amazon, I buy a lot of books on Amazon. One time, I saw a book referenced by these 2 Wharton professors, and I thought, I ought to get that book. So I go to Amazon, I click on the book, and instead of it coming to my house, I get, warning, you already bought that book from Amazon. Are you sure you want to buy it again? No, I don't want to buy it again. Now, that's the application of trustability. Okay? They're proactively watching out for my interests. Their database is better than my database. Okay? But rather than using that database to take money from me, they're using it to protect me from doing something I might regret later. And I no longer feel like I have to even count my change at Amazon. They're going to watch out for me. That's a human interaction. Now, Amazon has automated that into its code. There was no person in Amazon who looked at Don Pepper's interactions and said, hey, wait, we already ordered this book. You know, they wrote it into a line of code in their customer experience. They're automating it. They're streamlining it. They're encoding the human relationship. So, is this the ultimate future of customer experience? I don't think so. No. I think the future is Centaur customer experience. Centaur CX teams are the future. Let me give you an example. You tap your customer community to accelerate exceptions handling and to incorporate learnings. You know, automation is not going to be perfect. And when a chatbot screws up and it defaults to an expert panel, you want that panel or that expert to upgrade the intelligence. Every time you upgrade the intelligence, the chatbot gets smarter and smarter. For a complex service and business problem, streamline the inputs from experts and power users. I know one company that gamifies the system. So if you're an expert user for this large computer company, which I'll go unnamed because he's a competitor of Oracle, if you're a user, a power user, then you sign up for the program, you have the app on your phone. When a question has come in that has stumped the chatbot, you have a chance to answer the question. If you're the first to answer the question, you get extra points. If the AI engine adopts your answer and gives it later, you get a royalty in points every time they use that answer. Okay? And so what they're doing is they're accelerating the rate at which they teach the the chatbots. That's what you want to do. You want to take steps to be sure that your chatbots get smarter, faster, and faster. And in Centaur chess is a purely analytical game. We expect in the chess community that eventually, as computer-human teams work more and more well together, don't forget, the computers never forget. They remember everything. They remember all the new human ideas. And they're going to be observing these ideas the same way the last speaker talked about, cataloging beauty versus ugliness and smelly versus attractive, all right? And over time, eventually, probably, computers will exceed the performance even of human computer teams, or at least they'll equal it, that performance. But that will never happen in poker. It will never happen in a game that involves actual human interaction, will it? It could never happen, no matter how smart the computers get. It's not, I'm sorry, never say never when you're talking about computers, but not in our lifetime, and probably not in the lifetime of our children or grandchildren. Delivering humanity means relying on judgment, creativity, empathy, emotion, and intuition. You can't prescribe everything your employees should do in situations that you haven't predicted in advance. Instead, you have to empower them to act. You have to empower your employees to act. You can analyze x-rays in India, but bedside manner happens at the bedside. Courtesy, friendliness, reinforcement, commiseration. Those emotions are delivered from person to person, and they're key emotions in many companies' customer experiences. You can automate how a sales call is recorded and reported, but no computer is ever going to be able to look into a prospect's eyes and determine whether right now is the right time to go for the sale. And while computers can tell us what, only the stories we tell ourselves will tell us why. Let me ask you this question. Do you enjoy horror films? Who likes horror films? Raise your hand if you like horror films. Well, why did I ask this question? Well, believe it or not, in OkCupid's database, this is the single most predictive question when it comes to predicting a relationship's longevity. Now, but why is it the most predictive question? Nobody knows. It is what it is. The data says. The data will tell you what. Bigger data will tell you a bigger what, but no data is going to tell you why. You have to intuit that. You have to infer that. You have to tell yourself a story in order to understand why. Never underestimate the power of a great story. I'll just play you a video, a funny video to illustrate the power of a great story. Never underestimate the power of a great story. Telling stories often reinforces your employees' sense of purpose, which allows them to deliver humanity to customers. Ed Henrich, Group VP at Oracle and former Chief Customer Officer of Responses, which was bought by Oracle, said that they encourage their sales reps to tell stories of customer successes with Responses, and it counted for 25% of a sales rep's incentive compensation, the best story. That's using humanity in an organization, not just algorithms, not just deep learning, but stories that have a beginning and an end. I want you to think of customer experience in terms of how standardized the process is and how important it is to the customer, okay? And I have a two-dimensional matrix here. And over on the far left, you have automated business as usual. The experience here in this is very automated, it's very standardized, but it's not so important to the customer, it's just routine, right? Over on the lower left, you have business as usual. I'm sorry, you have threats to cost efficiency. Here, that you can't automate the experience, but it's not really important to the customer, but it threatens your cost structure. You want to automate as much as you can to streamline. In the upper right, you have automated customer lifecycle events, things that are very important to the company, to the customer, but things which you can predict. If you're a mobile phone company, for example, probably more than half of new customers will call in with a question about their first bill. They got their bill, they don't understand it, they want you to figure it out and explain it to them, and they call in. But you know first customers to call in, so you can script it, you can plan for it, you can automate, you can basically routinize the processes for handling that kind of call. It's in the upper left-hand quadrant that you have surprises, trials, and tribulations. Here, you need employees making non-routine decisions in situations that you could not have predicted in advance. You need your employees to be enabled and engaged. What does that mean? I want them to be competent and have good intentions for the company, okay? What does that mean? Competence and good intentions. You want your employees to be that kind of employee. You know, the real secret to a great customer experience could be driven home by a story of the first chess automaton. Around Europe, it was known as a Mechanical Turk. A Hungarian civil servant created this chess automaton and took it around Europe in 1769, and he was able to play masters and princes and kings, and he amazed. You would sit across from the automaton, and you would move a piece, and the automaton, his arm would move out and move a piece. You'd move a piece, he'd move a piece. Until one day in Paris, a chess master lost to the automaton, whereupon he was so incensed that he went up and he yanked the cabinetry apart, and sure enough, down underneath the table there was a little man with magnets and levers moving it around. And he said, "Hey, there's a person in there." That is the secret to a great customer experience. There has to be a person in there somewhere. Okay? You have to have personal interaction somewhere in the customer experience to have it great. You want engaged and enabled employees, and you want self-organization. When a customer problem comes in, you want employees to glom on the problem and solve it without a lot of top-down direction. I'm going to give you a physical demonstration of self-organization. We, as a room, are going to self-organize ourselves. I'm going to turn my back, and I want you to start clapping. But I want you to clap in unison. Go ahead. No. In unison means like the Europeans do, you know? I can't, does that make sense? Clap in unison? Try it again. There you go, all right, see? Now here's the point. My first instruction may not have been clear enough, but what happened in the second time around was that you were clapping, you're listening to your neighbor, you're adjusting, they're adjusting. I was not in the front of the room. There was no CEO going clap, 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 right? And a solution to the problem would have been clap, 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 or clap, clap, clap. Both those are good solutions. Those are self-organization problems. You want a company that's self-organized. So use your humanity. Equip your rank and file customer contact people to self-organize. At Fidelity, CX improvement budget can be tapped quickly with very little approval required, and they encourage employees to try to tap that budget to fix problems. One employee noticed that customers are having trouble logging into the IVR, so they tapped the budget for about $20,000. They delivered a better CX, and they saved the company about $4 million in deferred calls. At Commonwealth Bank in Australia, when a call comes into the contact center, for which there's no agreed solution from the computer, there's no scripted solution, the only approval the contact center agent needs to, if she thinks she has a fair solution for the customer, she needs to get the approval of one other contact center agent. They both sign off on it, and they're authorized immediately to offer it to the customer. Victoria Short, the CMO at Commonwealth Bank, told me that they'd had that program in place for several months. They review all the two-person decisions on a monthly basis. They use those two-person decisions to upgrade their chatbots and their scripts. Okay? They haven't had to reverse a single one. One way to collect overdue debts from customers. A bank I talked to had overdue debts they collected on behalf of clients. The problem they have is you got an amount in the debt, you got to call the client. When you get the client on the phone, the size of the debt tells how much they need to pay on a monthly or weekly basis. But the problem is customers would always agree to pay, but then they wouldn't pay. So now what the bank does is they get the customer on the phone, they get the customer to agree that they owe the money, and then the next question is, now, Mr. Jackson, how much do you think you can afford to pay on that debt every week? And if he says $80, then fine, we'll mark you down for that. And now they get 100%, almost 100% compliance, okay? Because they've got the customer already. They've made it a joint resolution. Or another way to resolve customer disputes. Ask yourself this: when's the last time you called into some contact center, or you had some discussion with a face-to-face employee at a store? There's some dispute, the product didn't work right, but you didn't do it right, maybe you didn't follow the rules, whatever. What if the customer rep just said, well, Mr. Wilson, what would you consider fair in this? You know, I mean, you're partly responsible, we're partly responsible. What would you consider fair? Once you get the customer to participate, you're employing empathy, you're getting the customer on your side, you're solving a joint problem, and no chatbot is ever going to do. Never say never. Not in our lifetimes. That is not going to happen with AI engines. So, there are very important competitive implications for this. The advantages from automation are easily matched. Automation will pervade the entire sector very soon. Human actions may not be as scalable, but they aren't easily imitated by competitors either, because humanity in your customer experience requires engaged employees unified by a unique and different sense of purpose. That's what unifies them. The right culture will inspire workers to want to overcome inadequate processes or systems. Let me tell you what a hotel executive told me. Roger Dow was president of marketing at Marriott Corporation, and a few years ago he told me that he'd had a meeting with his IT people, and he wanted a database which would at least tell a desk clerk, if you stayed, there were 435 Marriott properties in the United States, if you had ever stayed at this particular hotel before, Roger Dow wanted the desk clerk to be able to say, welcome back. Okay, they want a database to tell, you know, whether a customer who's checking in now had actually been at that particular Marriott hotel in the past. That's all he wanted, right? So the IT people went away and they thought about this for weeks, and they came back, and it's going to cost $500,000, it's going to take 6 months, and he just went ballistic. He said, this is not a big project, I want something simple. Roger said that very evening he went off on a business trip, and he checked into a Marriott hotel outside of Chicago. He'd actually stayed at that hotel 5 years before, but they remodeled the lobby and the entryway, and he was admiring it, and he wanted to see how it was looking, the new treatment. But as he went into the check-in desk, the clerk looked him in the eye and said, welcome back, sir. And he said, excuse me. I said, welcome back. You have stayed with us before, haven't you? And he said, yes, I have, young man, but do you know who I am? I'm the president for marketing at the Marriott Corporation. And my IT people tell me it takes $500,000 to do what you just did. Tell me I stayed here before, so you better tell me how you did it. And he got very nervous. He said, well, sir, you know, this wasn't really anything, but when you pulled your rental car up to the front door, remember the bellman asked you, have you stayed here before when you took your luggage? He put your luggage down and he looked at me and he goes like that, and that means you've stayed here before, so I said, welcome back. That's an example of how human a human sense of purpose, a human agreement on the right thing to do for customers can trump disabled systems or lack of function or just chatbots who haven't quite caught up with the human reality yet. So, let me give you some takeaways. First, use technology to take the friction out of the customer experience. That's most important. Also, trustability. Trustability is the single most human quality you can deliver in a customer experience. Trustability, whether it's asking a customer what they think is fair, okay, or reminding a customer they're about to spend too much relative to what they ought to for their own self-interest. Think of automation not as the absolute solution for a better customer experience, but as a team member, a member of the team. The robots and chatbots and AI engines, the smart learning and deep learning, that's all part of the team. But the team includes human beings. And the most successful firms in the 21st century will be those that use these tools along with an engaged and enabled workforce to be a self-organizing force for the customer. Thank you very much. You've been a terrific audience. Thank you.
Thank you.